for the ones standing guard, for the eagle-eyed, for the knights in shining armor, and for all those who support them. We are Grainger, your experienced safety partner, offering supplies and solutions for every industry, committed to helping keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, clickgrainger.com/safety, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Be the candidate investment firms are looking to hire. Become a CFA charter holder. Stand out for having the skills to thrive in the competitive investment industry. Visit cfainstitute.org/learn to find out more about the Level 1 CFA exam.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another amazing episode of the Secret to Success podcast. Today, I have Miss Jennifer Lehr, and I'm not going to give details. You guys know I love to let our guests introduce themselves and tell us more about them. So, Miss Jennifer, how are you doing today?
I'm good today. Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing good.
Awesome. So if you can please let our audience know who you are, what it is you do, and tell us more about you.
So my name's Jennifer Lehr. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am the founder and creator of a online do-it-yourself relationship reconstruction program called Weconcile, which is WECONCILE. And I do a lot of writing. I have 3 blogs, and I write for other places as well. I write for Love Wellness. I write articles on Medium. I've written for just a variety of places. And a lot of my writing is on helping couples figure out how to solve problems and change how they relate, so they're relating better. I also write about my own life path, because a lot of my own changes in my life is what I'm helping other people with also. Yeah, that's who I am right now. Yeah.
Awesome. I love the fact that you said I write a lot about myself, because what I'm helping others with is what I've gone through on my life path as well. We excuse me, we have a tendency to not want to admit that we're going through something, and that hurts in our relationship. How has your journey been able to, how have you been able to open up and help others on that path and direct them? And then I also have a question about the do it yourself. I love how you did that. So, but the first question is, how important is it for us to actually, before we can help someone else, go through that path ourselves?
So I think that it's actually really important. I mean, there are therapists that have never had therapy, which is a bit mind-boggling to me, because I really think you have to, have experienced the pain and the vulnerability to have real empathy for what someone else is going through. And also, I grew up in a family with really dismal relating skills, and so relating was really not easy for me growing up. And as I got older, I got into some difficult relationships with significant others. And it was in the process of getting into therapy, doing work on myself, that I began to start unraveling, the amount of anxiety I had and the amount of not understanding, how to have a really good relationship. And, in the process of working on myself and doing therapy, I also decided to become a therapist. I went back to school. I started doing a lot of advanced training beyond just the school and the hours. You have to do 3,000 hours to get licensed, and the testing. And then I did many, many years of training after that. Because it's an unending process of learning. I mean, even now, every day there's new material coming out with new understanding that can really help people change how they see themselves, how they see what relationships are, and how they can improve their lives. So yeah, it's been a big journey, and the journey for me, the journey is I'm on a journey, and I'm sort of sharing my journey as I'm coming from the place of having to had my own journey and also using that to help others. Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jennifer. You just gave me a different perspective on therapy, because that's the common concept, that how can you help me when you haven't been through anything yourself?
Right.
But with your transparency, you're like, no, I'm helping you because I've been through something myself. So
Right.
Thank you. That gives us that lets us know that no, first off, yes, if you're having issues, seek therapy, but at the same time, look for someone like Ms. Jennifer, who is transparent enough to say, yes, I've had issues, and I'm going to help you through the same issues that I've worked through and actually came out on the other side.
Right.
So thank you very much, Ms. Jennifer, for your transparency on that, because it definitely does put a different perspective on therapy. So thank you very much. So the DIY, the do-it-yourself online course, We Concile. Can you please give us details on that? Because when I read that, I was like, do it yourself? That's different.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah. So what happened was, in about 10, let's say I started writing it about 10 years ago, and it was a 4-year writing project. So I was working with couples, and they would come in and they either didn't have enough resources, monetary, time, and they couldn't afford to come every week. And couples therapy, you really want to do an hour and a half, not an hour. It's just, there's too much to do in a session. So they couldn't afford to do regular therapy. They needed help. They didn't even know the ABCs, much less the sentences and paragraphs of what would make their relationship better. They just didn't, because we learn, about relating by osmosis growing up in our families. We don't, generally take classes in it. And so I was looking at these people going, these people need help and they need more resources. And so I started doing more training, specific couples training, and start to figure out, how do I systematize a learning platform so people can learn what they need to learn first. And then once they have that foundation, then they learn the next thing they have to learn. And so that a couple could rebuild their relationship even without a therapist. And that's where it came from. And it's been a massive amount of work. And we're still getting it out into the world, but it's just been taken over my life. So there are specific, steps. So, but you want to, people, a lot of couples haven't been taught to think about, when we're in a relationship, we are emotionally regulating each other. So if someone gets up, we don't think about what's happening in the brain and the body. We just know that there's a problem and we're upset. And we don't understand what the actual steps are to change how we relate to each other, so that can sort of diminish and we're actually supporting each other instead of fighting. And so the goal is to teach people that and give them experiences through exercises and discussions that enables them to make these changes and reconstruct how they relate. Yeah.
Wow. I'm definitely looking forward to going on your site and just going in it.
Looking around, yeah.
because that's one of the, like you said, we learn we grow through osmosis. That's relationships, that's an attitude, thought processes, mindsets. And that's one of the biggest things. Like, how do I actually relate to this person? Because I'm used to relating to my family because we're all the same. I learned how to relate through them. But how do I relate to someone else, and we're actually in a relationship, and it goes to, you don't understand me. Well, no, you don't understand me. It's not that, it's that we can't relate to each other. So through this process, what is the most important thing, the most important thing couples should understand when it comes to that understanding of two different people? We need to learn how to relate.
Right. So I'd say there's two really important things. One is that we have to get to a point where we can talk vulnerably about what we need. not, you blah, 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 but instead, it really hurt me because I love you and I need to know you care about me. And that when you did that, it made me feel like I'm not important to you. So we have to get down to the level of attachment and what, the importance of attachment. So learning how to communicate that way is more than just changing the words. Changing the words is part of it, but it's also opening up the feelings and being able to feel safe enough to talk in that level. Some couples don't feel safe enough to talk at that level. They just are like, I'm mad at you, you did this. So it's slowing them down, getting them feeling safer. That's one thing. The other thing is knowing that we regulate each other in such a way. So for instance, if a couple is struggling and they are instructed to look in each other's eyes and sort of connect and maybe hold hand, touch, they'll find their body starting to calm down because we regulate each other in our bodies. It's not just our how we speak. It's much deeper than that. So knowing that there's a whole, and all the other thing is, we're raising families and they may be pretty good families, but they're never perfect. And so we all have little wounds, places where we, feel like we weren't, even if we're not conscious of it, but places where we feel like, oh, that person never got me in this way. And generally we bring in partners who trigger that stuff. And these are our wounds. And we have to start unraveling why, what happened that you triggered me that way? And I triggered, we trigger each other back and forth. So having to unravel what that story is and get a handle on it so we can change it, because we heal each other. We heal those wounds in a good relationship. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. It's so much. it's so, because over the past few years, I've learned a lot about myself, and I've learned that my previous relationship did not work out because I was still broken and not aware of my brokenness.
Right.
So how does one, when they're and when you're not aware, for somebody to tell you you're wrong, you're like, no, I'm not, you're wrong. That whole process happens.
Right.
How does one become aware? Like what is that point where it's like, okay, look, we need help because there's something in me, like you said, what about this person is triggering this? Like, where have you seen in couples where they get to that point, like, okay, we can't keep doing this and we have to find help? Right.
Well, usually when couples say we have to find help, it's really far down the line. People don't start early enough. I mean, really, it should be a part. Instead of planning a big expensive wedding, you should be putting that money into premarital counseling and working some stuff out. That's my personal opinion, getting some education. But in terms of brokenness, my guess is that your partner had brokenness too, and that's part of what triggered you. It wasn't just your brokenness, that there was brokenness on both sides. So let's suppose somebody was, in order to survive their childhood, they had to, and I'm saying that sort of in a harsh term, survive their childhood, but we developed coping mechanisms. And let's suppose they had to be really, let's suppose it was a man and he took care of his single mother because it made him feel good and it made him feel like she loved him and she was important to him. And then that person gets a partner or a wife who felt over-controlled when she was growing up. She wasn't allowed to have her own voice. So you get these two together. Well, the one who's used to giving a lot is also controlling. He's controlling through the giving because he wants it to be his way. And the other one is like, wait, what about my way? I'm growing and I don't want to always do it. And they clash because they don't know. He doesn't know how to let go because it's unconscious. He doesn't realize, well, wait, it's okay. I can trust that I'll be okay if I'm not always giving and controlling, that I can let go a little. And she can say, I need to know that you will let me do this and I'll be safe. And I need you to be part of this, but not control me. So it's this whole thing of starting to open up and see what are these ways of being that are hardwired into us. I mean, we're in neurology at this point. This isn't stuff we're pasting on. It is how we're wired. So we have to rewire. And in order to rewire, you have to become more conscious. You either work with a program like Weekend Style, or you get a therapist who understands this process, and you start becoming more conscious of what's going on. And once you're more conscious, you can start rewiring what you're doing.
Okay, guys, there is nothing more personal than your health. So, when it comes to finding the right nutrition supplements to meet your fitness goals, you need a personalized approach. Thankfully, now there's Gainful, the personalized nutrition system that's formulated for your body and goals. Gainful gives you peace of mind that your protein, hydration, and pre workout supplements contain the finest ingredients specifically for you. Now, I have been on my weight release journey since the beginning of this year. And in the process of doing that, you pay more attention to what you're putting in your body, what you're doing to your body. And I love the Gainful products because it's specified specifically for me. It has a wonderful flavor. I'm one with a sweet tooth, so it works out for me. It doesn't have that grainy taste to it, that some powdery taste to it. And the one thing I love about it the most is I know that my body is different from everybody else's. So with Gainful, I know that I'm putting into my body what is specifically needed for my body. You know, my brother works out on a daily basis. I can't intake the same things he intakes. You know, I can't intake the same things that my mom would intake, and she's older than me and she's going through a process as well. So I truly love Gainful because it allows me to know, it gives me the peace of knowing that while I'm working out, while I'm going about my day-to-day activities, I know that what I'm putting in my body is healthy for me, and it tastes great. It doesn't steer me away. You know how some supplements taste so horrible where it's like, okay, I just can't do this even though I know I need to? Not Gainful, and I absolutely love it. You get started by taking the 5-minute Gainful quiz. Gainful considers your dietary needs, goals, and unique physiology to personalize your formula. And the one thing I love the most is Gainful delivers your supplements with no shipping charge every month. And you can cancel anytime or adapt your plan as needed, which is something else I absolutely love about Gainful, because as I transition, as I release the weight, as I change, as I work out more or work out less, as I become more active, or as I want to maintain, I can reach out and I can adapt my Gainful subscription to what my body has transitioned to, because 6 months from now, I'm not going to need the same things I need anymore. And that's one of the other things that I absolutely love about Gainful. So what I want you to do to get your $20 off from your personalized supplements, go to gainful.com/success. Again, that's Gainful, GAINFUL.com/success for $20 off. Gainful, your personalized nutrition made for your taste.
Right. I love that. It's because as you be, like you said, when you become aware, and just in your own personal growth, you start noticing different things. And in my own personal growth, I started noticing, I'm like, wait a minute. Where one of the questions that Antonio used to tell us to always ask ourselves is, who told you? So who told you you had to do it that way? Or who told you you had to do it that way?
Right.
And as I asked myself that question, I started noticing, okay, so a lot of this, like you were saying, it started in childhood. Like, I'm now wired this way, so I have to rewire myself.
Yeah.
So when you come across those who, once they are aware, okay, this is something from childhood, but they have a very hard time releasing that, what does that process look like? Like, okay, I know this is what it is, but I'm not there yet. Like, this, it's too big.
Right.
It's too big for me to just.
Yeah. Okay. So that brings up two things. One is, it is big. You can't just jump off the cliff. It doesn't work that way. You actually have to be in a safe environment. So you have to feel safe to start making, and then it happens. You have to do it in little steps. It's iterative. So 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So it's, we learn through repetition, we rewire through new experiences, but more than one. You need, I think they say 19 or something to learn something new. I don't remember what it is, but there's a supposed number. So anyway, you have to feel safe. So how do you get yourself and your partner to feel safe, whether it's the two of you or with a third person like a therapist? But there has to be enough safety to explore what's going on. And then there has to be the ability to go, okay, let's just take one example. We'll take one incident and let's dissect what happened and figure out what happened there. And then let's redo it. Let's do it over again. So we had this horrible situation where, you know, you wanted to go to your parents' house for a holiday and I wanted to go and it turned into this huge fight. Okay, let's dissect that. What were you feeling? You were feeling like, well, nobody cares about what I want. What were you feeling like? The other one, oh, no matter what I do, it's not enough. Whatever the examples are, and you start getting them down into that level. And I mean, if you want to use an example from your own life, we could dissect it, but I don't know if you want to get that vulnerable.
And the crazy thing is, Miss Jennifer, I know a lot of people who actually have my same issue, and it's that deep obligation to parent.
Okay.
And because of that deep obligation to parent, regardless of, doing certain things is like, I can't bring myself to do that. And not only just the deep obligation to parent, but also I want you to give me what I wanted you to give me then, and I want you to do it now. But now I know that you were just as broken as I am. So now I want to fix you so you can give me.
Right. Yeah. Let's just start with the deep obligation to parents for 1 second. So there is a term known as the couple bubble. This is Stan Tatkin's work. He's I always forget the names, neurobiology, neuropsychology, they're all sort of together, merged, but he developed this term, the couples bubble, and there's other terms developed by other clinicians and researchers and teachers. And the couple bubble means that the primary couple relationship has to be first before any other relationship. If you don't put the bubble around the couple and make that relationship first, you are chipping away at the security and safety of that relationship. So when you get into parents, that's a problem because parents have to come after the relationship. So that's just a piece of education for you and those who have this issue. But now when we get into parents, what I would say to you or someone like you with this particular issue is, what does it feel like if you were going to say no to one of your parents? What would that feel like? Oh no, you're hiding. Come back.
It's like, to say no, I feel like I can't.
Would it hurt them? Is it embarrassing? Like, what happens in your body when you imagine saying no?
I get flustered. Like my whole body gets tingly and warm.
Does anybody in your family say no to your parents?
That's a good question.
Because sometimes there's someone who does.
Seen it. I've seen it happen once. And when it happened, I sat there and I was like, oh, like I had just this feel of relief because I didn't have to be the one to say no.
Right.
And someone said no for me. Like I literally sat back and I was like, thank you so much.
Okay, so you noticed when that happened. It was a big deal.
Yes.
So if you were to, practice little tiny no's, not big ones, just a little one, you'll have to figure something out that would work. Just to practice being allowed to not always be so obedient to taking care of what they want. In other words, you want things too, and you might someday want something that they don't want. You might want something different. And where does that leave you? If you want something different than them and you can't allow yourself that.
Okay.
So just to think about, I personally think your parents will survive. I mean, it might be hard on them. They might be upset. They might cry. I don't know, but they will survive. And ultimately what you're doing is saying, I'm me. I love you, but I'm not identical to you. And what we find in relationships is people think they should be merged and identical. That's not being that's not a relationship. A relationship is a bridge between two different places. So the bridge is the relationship. When you're merged, there's no bridge and there's not two different places. There's one place. You want two different places with a bridge in between. And the only way to have a bridge is to have two different places. Otherwise, it's just this collapse and you don't get to be your full self. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. So I just want to point out to our audience, I really hope that you are taking notes. The couple bubble, I wrote that down, couple bubble, and I'm circling it because we have a tendency, we get into relationships, but we get into relationships and we bring everybody else with us into our relationship.
Yes.
Well, when you said the couple bubble, that made sense to me. And I actually imagined a bubble around me and my partner, because there's just so much outside. But if you just bubble each other, it's just you. And when you come first, and everything else will take care of itself. Because like you said, when you bubble each other, you build that bridge. So ladies and gentlemen, please understand that your personal relationships are they are you. So if you build a bubble around your relationships first, everything else will flow into place.
Right.
And for those of you who are like me that have parental issues, like Miss Jennifer said, your parents will be okay. I'm sure they will. So please bubble yourselves and practice the small no's. Miss Jennifer, I can't even begin to explain to you, and I'm sure you know in your field, how many people I've come across to just in conversation now, because I have a little more awareness than I did, and you just brought more awareness to me. Thank you for that. Just in conversation, I can hear, okay, so as a kid, your mom had a very strong hold on your growth and your development.
Yeah. As
a kid, your dad had a very strong hold on your growth and development. You know, when I hear a woman say, you know, I'm the strong, I have to take care of. Right. In my head, okay, so either your mom was single, she did all the work, or you're the oldest, but your mother instilled in you watched her take on everything, not say no to anybody and be the strong one. So thank you, Ms. Jennifer. Yeah. Thank you very much. You just brought a lot of awareness to our audience. So Ms. Jennifer, I have a question when it comes to couples and in your relationships. How does that, if you haven't put that bubble around you and your partner, and you neither one of you have gone through the process of building the bridge, you're trying to not build a bridge, how does that affect everything else outside?
So if you haven't done it, are you saying if you have not done it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, well, what happened? I mean, oh, that's such a complicated question. Well, for instance, okay, here's one example. If you and your partner haven't built a bubble around yourself, your kids could split you, which means they pit one of you against the other. One of you says, no, you can't do that. And then they go to the other one and they get the other one to say yes. And then that can happen. That's just a minor example of what can happen. But basically you're not preserving, when the relationship isn't important enough, then also it's much more likely there'll be, for instance, affairs. I mean, because the couple bubble has to be strong, and you have to be connected and feel safe. If you don't feel safe or attached, you may wander off. All kinds of things can happen. You just want to have a healthy relationship, because a healthy relationship is the basis really of a fully functioning family. And then you get into the fully functioning world. I mean, you want a world that functions at all. We can only work on ourselves we can work on, our area, our career, whatever we do in the world, but also our work on ourselves helps the world. Because the more healthy people there are, the healthier choices people make, the less crazy things get about, countries fighting and people trying to put other groups down and all that. That all comes out of a lack of health. That's, people deciding, well, I'm right and you're wrong, or I don't care about you, I only care about me, or, all that stuff starts happening. Now, I'm not sure if I answered your question right.
Actually, no, you answered it perfectly, because
Okay.
it's a great segue into the next question that I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
Because on the success, a lot of our listeners are entrepreneurs, business owners, they're C-level execs looking to, either start another company or change something within their own companies, or they're parallelpreneurs who are working full-time jobs and starting a new job. But one of the things that so my question is, I don't want to do that part. I want to ask you.
Okay.
Life needs more Cedar Point, more smiles, more surprises, more screams, more days in the sun and nights on the shore, more oohs and ahs and yums, more moments with your family and friends, more memories you get to share again and again. Life needs more Cedar Point, more than ever.
And now you can have more for less. Save up to $25 on tickets when you buy online now. Only at cedarpoint.com.
The level of connection you feel in your home dramatically influences your experiences there. Get the tools to control that connection in your communities with the first multifamily platform that unifies management and resident experiences to create smart apartments. Talk to a RealPage consultant today to see how your properties can meet the future of multifamily with the Smart Building Suite.
What is if their personal relationships, if they have not done what you said and bring awareness to themselves about what they need to work, put the bubble around themselves and their mates, how does that affect them in the business? How does that directly affect them in the business arena?
Okay, so there's a couple things that come up for me. The first one is, if you're stressed at home, it's not going to make for, generally, if you're stressed at home, you're going to carry some of that stress with you into wherever you are. So you want to have a really happy you want to have a happy, peaceful life, and you want to be effective at what you do. And maybe you can be effective and have a stressed home-like life, but ultimately we want to be happy in all the spheres of our life. We want to be successful in all the spheres of our life, not just our career, or our mission or our purpose, but also our relationships, all of it. That's how you're a full-rounded person, by really making every aspect of your life successful. The other thing that can happen is if you don't develop good relational skills, you may be doing things at work that alienate your employees, your coworkers, your boss, your whatevers, because you have habits or ways of being that are not relational. They're either too controlling, or they have, they're whatever. They're not, being part of a team. And you've got being a part of a team in your primary relationship, that you can bring into that way of being, you can bring into your what you do in the world, because it is a way of being, learning how to honor both yourself and the other person at the same time, and work out the best way of moving forward, instead of, it's my way or the highway, for instance. That doesn't work so well. People resent that. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much. I've always wanted to ask a therapist that question, because we can tell each other, what happens at home, you carry it out, but to have someone actually say, and how you broke it down, thank you, because I never thought about it that way. You have certain relatable traits that you've learned that you're literally putting other people off because of, like, you're offending people because of how you do something at home, you
Right.
do it at work. And what's funny to me is how people say my work husband and my work wife. And earlier you just said, if you don't do that, if you aren't able to relate, put that cup of bowl around and be able to say no to others, you don't have a healthy relationship, and people tend to stray. And when you said that, and I thought about work husbands and work wives, and not being able to relate at home, but you can relate at work with these people. That all comes down to that couple bubble.
Right.
That all comes down to that being relatable at home. And if you're not relatable at home, you step out of that home, you're opening, like you said earlier, you're opening yourself up to so much more.
Mm-hmm.
And I never thought about the alienating others at work
Right.
because of how you are at home. It's
Right.
like you go to work, yay, yeah, you think you had a great day at work, but you don't know how you left the people at work and how you made them feel.
Yeah,
wow,
exactly. And it also depends on, obviously, with your more primary relationships, it's emotionally more intense because they're more important. But there's still elements of behavior that drift into all the relationships. Yeah. So, yeah.
So what are some of those elements that drift? What are some of those?
So we'll use you for example again, because you're a good example, right?
Yes, I am.
So I'm just curious. I don't want to pry too deeply. You can always say, no, I don't want to answer that. But so you have trouble saying no to your parents. How are you saying no to other people?
It depends on who they are.
Right. And what makes that difference?
I don't want to disappoint, and the difference is the magnitude of the relationship. I'll use my son as example.
Okay.
My son, father, and I are divorced. So we get each other every other week. So when he's with me, he asks me certain things. I don't want to tell him no. Because I feel like if I tell him no, this is the only time I have with him. So I want him to enjoy it, because I don't want to hear, Mommy, I want to go be with Daddy. Mommy, I want to go to Daddy's house. So when he asks certain things, I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Or I would normally do something I wouldn't normally do, like give him a pint of ice cream.
Right.
Instead of the little bitty ones.
Right.
Now, but if it comes down to.
Does his father do that same behavior as you do with not wanting to say no? You're not sure?
I honestly don't know.
I was just curious because the poor kid might never get a no, and what's that going to do to him?
Exactly. And I've started experiencing that. Even Antonio pointed out to me, he's like, look, if you can't keep doing it this way, because he doesn't challenge himself. Like just the simple task of opening a bottle of water. He's like, Mommy, can you do it? And instead of me saying no, I just open it and give it to him, because I'm like, okay, well, he's coming to me and I want him to keep coming to me. So I don't want to tell him no. Something as simple as opening a bottle of water. Right.
Although he might be better off learning to experience the trying, the effort, the frustration, and finally the success himself.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what you might be keeping him from, some of those experiences, which even though it's going to be hard for you to tolerate, his disappointment when you say no. Yeah. So that's a great example. That's a really good example. Yeah. Now you're going to tell me about the people you can say no to.
Okay. So the people I can say no to are those who just like, I'm not going to say random people, because that's not, but just those who I'm not as close to, those I don't share a bond with. It's easier for me to say, no, we can't do it at this time, or no, I can't do that, or no, I'm not going over there. But if it's like my parents or my son or my significant other, sometimes saying no is like, I don't want to say no because I don't want to disappoint them. Yeah.
So that's just an example, and how much it bleeds into the work environment just depends. But a lot of I'll give you another example. So there are, a Steve Jobs type. I think didn't everyone he worked with not like him? I remember reading that it was people, he may have been brilliant and done, amazing things in his, his field, but nobody really wanted to hang out with him, in the work environment. So that's someone who was, uber successful. And maybe he didn't care whether people liked him or not. That's a whole other issue. But he wasn't part of building a work environment where people were really, heart-to-heart connections. That wasn't, I'm about helping people create heart-to-heart connections, because the world needs more heart. It's not just about making money and being successful, as important as that might be. It's also about doing it with heart. in my personal, opinion.
Oh no, I do agree. Because if
Yeah.
there's no heart in it, then
Yeah, I mean, you want to be able to honor everybody you're in contact with, and also know where the lines are, know where you get to say no, know when it's appropriate to say no, when do you give, and be flexible, when do you hold the line. All those qualities are structural in us, and sometimes people have to build them. When I was young, I couldn't say no. I was not able to say no when I was a child, because I was terrified. I grew up in a violent household, and I was terrified of ruffling any feathers, unless it was, something that was incredibly important, like an animal was being abused or something, or I would stand up. But in terms of generally, no, because it was too scary. And I had to do work to build that backbone, which now I can say no, like, screw you, no, peacefully. But it was like lifting weights there for a while. I had to build some muscle. So yeah, it just depends. What everybody has to look at what their strengths and weaknesses are, and where are they strong in the family, and where are they strong in their relationship and weak, and does it not translate, and how, out into their work environment. Because it is different for everyone. It's not like a one size fits all. Different people carry different things out and have different areas that they could benefit from working on.
thank you very much. Because one of the things that I've learned is, when it comes to like law of attraction and things of that nature, you actually, for entrepreneurs, we attract who we are. So our customers are just like us. So
Right.
as I was learning that, and I'm speaking to customers, I'm noticed like they're like reflections of me. So I'm seeing me on a
Right.
different spectrum, and listening to them talk. I'm like, wow, that's what I deal with. Like that's where my thought process is. Like, because
Right.
I'm now outside of the frame, being able to watch. And then when you said about, like, you carry things over, they go from home to the workplace, and just how everything is connecting is like, wow, that is because like you
Yeah.
really have to work on you.
Yeah, though it's really good you can see outside the box now. Yeah. Outside the frame, that you can see, oh, there's a part of myself there. Oh, there's a part of myself over there. Do I want that part? Do I not want that part? Yeah.
Right. Actually, I do that a lot with my son. When I growing up, parents want you to be this way, and like you said, I want to do something opposite of that. So I started that way with my son. My son was for me. He was mine, for me to love, for me to show how wonderful of a mother I was, to show that I was a great mother, and this and that and that. And after a while of my own personal development, I actually just kind of sat back and actually just started watching him, watching his personality, how he grew, how he responded to things when nobody was looking.
Right.
And as I was doing that, I was like, wow, I actually saw me.
Right.
And I tell people all the time, my son is the greatest mirror that I have to show me.
Mm-hmm.
Because any attitude I had, when he responds a certain way to things, I'm like, ooh, okay, I need to work on that. Because if he's doing that, that means he saw me do it. How
Right.
he thinks, his thought processes, how he puts things together, how he conceptualizes things. It's
Right.
Even though he's 5, it's still the thing of, yeah, that's a reflection of me. So it's the law of attraction with working on yourself, how you treat others, what they see when they're on the other side of you, the wake when you leave a room. All of that is tied into your personal growth. And when you're in a couple, if you don't do the couple, I love that couple bubble. Thank you so much for introducing that to me. And if you don't learn how to relate there, it
Right.
trickles into so many other areas of your life. And it's just amazing how that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really good to make the couple bubble. The couple is to be primary, and then everything flows out from that, because that's the stable point, the couple. Yeah. Yep.
And then being able to relate, that is the greatest thing. being able to relate, because if you can't relate there, you can't relate anywhere. And I love how you're helping couples build that bridge, because like you said, growing up for me was, what goes on in his house, stay in his house, stay in the child's place.
Right.
And then the moment I turned 18, okay, you're too old for this, you're too old for that. I'm like, wait, I'm confused. What is it? And being able to just relate there, starting with that relatable relationship, the parent-child relatable relationship does so much to you.
Yeah.
So if you can't do it, and when you get into that couple, being able to relate with others is, and I thank you for what you're doing, because I've seen relationships where they have related, and I've seen relationships where they're just like, no, this is what it is. I'm sorry. There's no relating here. And I thank you for what you're doing, because not only are you helping relationships, but you're literally helping generations. Because the next generation of the couples that you're helping will be so much more open and relatable, and not as damaged. Because like you said, we're not perfect.
You're making healthier kids, which, we need healthy kids to keep the world getting healthier. I mean, we want the world to get healthier, not more fractured. So, yeah. And, we've got plenty of fracturing going on out there. So
plenty of it. Yeah. So Ms. Jennifer, I have a question for you. You have, can you explain to us what the attachment theory is?
Yes. So attachment theory, attachment theory is pretty complicated, so I'll just make it really simple. Attachment theory, we'll look at it. First of all, it's about how mammals feel safe. They need emotional and physical safety. That, in other words, you when you probably nursed your son, that connection of the feeling you both, that's an emotional connection, and mammals need that sense of safety. And as you're developing, as a child is developing, they may be attached in a way. They can actually predict. There's something called the adult attachment interview, and they can predict to a 75% place from what the mother answers on that interview, what will happen with that child in terms of the child's attachment health. So, because it comes from relationship. So when the parent is good at both supporting the child, helping the child talk about feelings, helping the child process confusions, when the parent is there able to soothe the child but not smother the child, when the parenting is good enough, the child will have what's called a secure attachment. And a securely attached child will be content, they'll be engaged, they'll just be a happy kid, and they will be much more capable of having a good relationship without having to do a lot of work. It'll be generally easier. It doesn't mean there won't be pockets where there's issues, but now when you have a parent, and this is, you can have also, the father is an influence too, but the mother's influence tends to be heavier because the mothers spend more nurturing time with the child usually. But so you may have in different contexts have different attachment styles come up as an adult. So if your father had a different set of qualities than your mother, you may be different in different contexts. However, in primary relationships, so if you are raised in such a way that whenever you needed your mother, she freaked out. She was upset. She was crying. Maybe she's depressed over the death of a relative. She wasn't available. You may develop what's called more of an anxious avoidant attachment, or insecure avoidant attachment. And that is someone who doesn't, that would be the ambivalent. Sorry, this is where it gets complicated. The anxious, insecure, ambivalent. There's so many different people have these things named differently, but the more ambivalent attachment is a child who's more insecure. They always ask questions. They have a lot of anxiety because when they needed that safe, secure person, sometimes she was available, sometimes she wasn't available. The response, it created anxiety in the child. Or you could have what's called an avoidant child, which that is someone who doesn't show their anxiety, but they have anxiety, and they would tend to say, use drugs, gamble, get over, addicted to the internet, because they find other things to sort of take care of them, because it didn't serve them to ask for attention as a child. It didn't work. And then there is a disorganized attachment, which is too complicated to even get into as far right now. But so you get these different attachment styles. And when you have a couple, you may have, and then on top of that, there's arousal states, but we won't open that up because it's too complicated. But let's suppose you have someone who tends to be anxious and clingy, and someone else who hides their anxiety and tends to go off and like get on the internet and not get off the internet for days, and they're a couple. Well, you can already see the problems there's going to be. The anxious, clingy one is going to feel abandoned, and the other one is going to feel like that they're never enough. This person's always wanting things that they can't provide. I mean, you or immediately see where the problem's going to be, and you have to start teaching them about what they're doing. You actually have to get them to see what happened in their history that made them form themselves this way. What was your mother doing when you were 2 and 3? Oh, you just felt that feeling in your stomach. What memory comes up? Oh, I remember being 4 and my father yelling at my mother and yelling at us kids. And that's the feeling I get. As people start getting hooked into the memories and then applying them to how they are now, then they have stories to share with their partners about who they are and why they are. And they can start supporting each other in understanding each other and changing. So which is how attachment theory fits into working. And then it can go deeper. We can get into the neurobiology of it, but we're just going to stick with the categories for now.
Wow. You're sitting, okay. So when I hear people add value like you just did, I'm sitting here, I'm like, man, that sounds like me.
Oh, you heard it from you there. I was in one of those descriptions too, by the way.
Like I'm sitting here, you're listing them, and I'm sitting here like the anxious, insecure, ambivalent. Was that?
You're ambivalent. You would be me.
Ambivalent.
Would both probably. I'm guessing we would both be the ambivalent, more insecure attachment style. Which tends to be more clingy, doesn't want to disappoint, maybe a little bit dramatic at times, insecure. Yeah, there we are.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah.
Like, and I'm saying that explains so much. It's one of the greatest things that Antonio has ever taught us is once you can account for something, you can control it. And with you adding all of this value to our audience, I'm listening to you and it's bringing to my awareness, like that light bulb goes off and it's like, that's what that is. Now I know what to work on. Now I know how to work through that and work past that with it.
Yeah. I know, like,
exactly.
For example, when I was young in my earlier relationships, I was definitely ambivalent, anxiously attached. Now I'm in my second marriage and it's a really good marriage and we've both done a lot of work, and that's not what comes up in this, that stuff has been healed. And so that's just to know that this can all be changed. It's just what you're born with. There's a whole process to recognize it and change it, but it is absolutely not, a blueprint forever. It's just until you change it, this is what it is. So just to know, that's the use of learning and growing and doing this kind of work, is that you don't have to, the sky's the limit. You don't have to stay, you can change anything. Yeah. And then you can do this work and take that principle out into your career and go, well, I did it in my relationship. Now I can do it out in my, what I'm doing, my project or whatever you're doing. You can go, I've learned from my relationship that I've learned from what I've done with myself. I can change anything. I can do anything. It's just a matter of, knowing what to do, supporting myself, not giving up, continuing to learn, holding a positive vision. It's just, it's a series of things that you can take and apply into the outer world and into your career.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Jennifer. I love how because quite a few of our network, they are motivational speaker, transformational speakers. And so I really hope they're listening to this, because it will definitely, motivational and transformational speakers are there to save lives, to help others.
Right.
But if they understand what you're teaching, if they're listening to this, I hope they go and do their research. I even hope they reach out to you and sit down and say, okay, look, Ms. Jennifer, what do I need to do to go through your course so I can learn better, so I can better? Because like you said, nobody wants a therapist who hasn't gone through anything.
Right. Yeah. No, you want someone
No.
real. You want a real person.
Exactly. So when it comes to, if you're standing on the stage and you're motivating me or helping me transform, I need to know that you've been through something.
Yes, you've
You
struggled
worked through it.
Yes.
Exactly. You got through that. So I thank you, because
Yeah.
it's life. Like what you're teaching, what you're telling our audience today is, hey, look, work on you, work on your couple. Learn how to relate with the person that you plan on spending the rest of your life with, so you can learn how to relate with the rest of the world and teach your children the same thing.
Right. Yeah. And you also, you want to, you don't want to be a god and all the people are like little, bowing at your feet. You want to be a person who other people admire and relate to. It's a much healthier, adult to adult rather than, God to child, relationship. Yeah.
I actually love that you just said that, because when internet first came out, social media first came out, people started doing videos and putting them out there. You had to be a certain way. You had to be suited and booted, makeup from head to toe, hair, everything in the perfect spot. You can't have a strand loose. And today, all we want to see is, are you a real person?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, don't do the suited and booted. I want to see the real person. I want to see, have you struggled before you tell me how to get through my struggle? Did that work for you before you tell me tell me how to do it?
Yeah.
So I love that you just said that, because that's our life now. Our life is a life of transparency, and not a life of lights, camera, action.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's not just about the exterior, it's about the whole person. And Brene Brown's a great one to listen to for that. Yeah. Yeah.
She is awesome. I actually got the opportunity to hear her speak, and she is amazing.
Yeah.
And she's straightforward. She does not sugarcoat anything, and I love it.
Straightforward, yeah.
Well, Ms. Jennifer, before we close out today, do you have any final words for our audience?
Yeah, just, it's all intertwined. It's all intertwined, our relationships, our careers, who we are, how we develop. It feels like these different boxes, but they're actually all connected. And you want your life to sort of be fulfilled and spread through all the different parts of yourself, because we're big beings. I mean, we're these big beings. We have, we do these big careers, we have families and relatives and interests and thoughts, and we're big. And so we want that light. We want to develop our light and spread it through all the parts of ourselves. And not just say, okay, I'm going to grind away and try to make this thing work. It's got to be bigger than that. It has to be, I'm enjoying my life. I'm making all parts of my life beautiful, because that's what we have the capacity to do. Yeah. So that's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And before we close out, can you please let our audience know how they can find you?
Sure. So, we can Weconcile at www.weconcile.com. There's also a quiz, back on /quiz, weconcile.com/quiz. That's a relationship quality quiz you can take. I also have a website, jenniferlehrmft.com. And on that, so the Weconcile website has my blog, the Weconcile blog, to help you with your relationship, a lot of writing. And then my website has a healing tips blog for more individual issues, and a personal blog with a lot of what I've gone through and writing about that in my life. Yeah, so I think those are, I've got Pinterest and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and all the regular stuff. And it's all most of it should be, at Reconcile. And that's how you find me. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Ms. Jennifer, it has been a true pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for joining us on the Secret to Success podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, you will find all of Ms. Jennifer's information in the show. So please, after you listen to this, while you're listening to this, go and click on, take a look at Reconcile, learn how to relate within your relationship, learn how to take care of you and home first, and just have patience. Thank each and every one of you for joining us today. Thank you so much, Ms. Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you.
Stand out from all the rest by becoming a CFA charter holder. As the investment industry evolves, professionals need the tools to evolve with it. When you become a CFA charter holder, you're not only developing real-world skills and expertise, you're demonstrating to employers that you have what it takes to thrive. In fact, more than 80% of those who earn the CFA charter say it boosted their career. Sound interesting? Go to cfainstitute.org/learn to find out more about the Level 1 CFA exam.
The level of connection you feel in your home dramatically influences your experiences there. Get the tools to control that connection in your communities with the first multifamily platform that unifies management and resident experiences to create smart apartments. Talk to a RealPage consultant today to see how your properties can meet the future of multifamily with the Smart Building Suite.